Hello again.
Hello.
Well, summer house sit in England with a 3 Cocker Spaniel. Here we go.
And he's the youngest boy.
He's the youngest boy and he's the most cuddly one, isn't he? Yes, he is.
Yes.
And the other ones are down there. We have actually the first summer day. Yay, yay. And you go down again? Okay.
Yeah, shock horror. It's actually warm in England. We have sunshine and fairly blue skies.
After about 4 weeks ugly summer weather, which was no summer. I don't know what it was, but it was definitely British summer, wasn't it?
It was more like autumn, actually. But anyway, here we are.
You're desperate house sitters.
Yeah.
Yay, back again.
And we're kind of about an hour west of London. Yeah, it's interesting. We're in our second house sit here in England.
Yeah, not very far away from London. And yeah, we have today we are going to talk about some topics that might be very interesting for you if you consider house sitting in England. It's your home country, so not my home country. My home country is Germany. But in England, everything is a little bit different. Like, for example, the summer holidays are going on for 6 weeks, aren't they?
Yeah, so they start from around the third week in July and they go on to the first week in September.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And most British families will only go away for 1 to 2 weeks on holiday. So often you'll find house sitting, if you want to get house sits in England, they're only going to be fairly short compared to some. We were really lucky though, the retired couple that we had.
They were going for 4 weeks.
They went for 4
weeks.
But
this is the exception.
But this is an exception. Rather than the rule. And of course, a lot of the families who have children, the kids are off school then, so this is when they're taking their holidays.
Yeah. Well, why we pointed out to you, because when you want to house sit in England, you have shorter house sits and you have to probably go from one house sit to the other, and this might probably bring you to the next problem, because depending on which platform you go on, we use quite a lot trusted house sitters, especially for England. There's a rule for couples as well that you can't have an overlap. The maximum overlap is 1 day, so you can't apply for a house that's maybe 2 days before the next one starts. So you could, as a couple, you split up and then say, okay, I take over the next one and you stay with this one until the owners come back, because the system is not allowing it.
Yeah, so we actually had a challenge in trying to find the one that we're in now, which was a gap that we had between 2 houses.
Yeah, so you have to consider probably using different platforms if you are not only going with one platform, to be able to manage overlaps as a couple. Well, the next challenge you have in England has to do with the car insurance in this country, and maybe you say something about that.
Yeah, so what I didn't realize is that in a lot of countries you insure the car and not the driver. So it's the car that's insured and anyone can drive that car.
Like we have in Australia, no problems with that one.
Yeah, but that's not the case usually in the UK. So some policies you can have here that are any driver, but they tend to be a lot more expensive. And so most families will go for named drivers. So this may be just the couple or the individual who are actually the named driver. So no one else is insured to drive the car.
So if you're from overseas and you don't have your own car, please keep this in mind. That might be an issue, especially if you're somewhere in the countryside, you need a car. Hiring a car is quite expensive.
Yeah,
so it's not really an option. Yeah, anyway, so if you have dogs to look after, like we have here 3 little beautiful Cocker Spaniels, and as you know, the breed needs a lot of walking, exercising, they want to be, in action. Busy. It's important for you to figure out how is the walking area around the house. Because in England it's a little bit different, like in other parts of Europe, for example, you don't have any walkways along the streets or cycleways. There's nothing like that. There are narrow streets, very narrow streets everywhere, all over the country. And if you don't have walkways around the house, you might have the situation that you need to take the dogs in a car to bring them to nice footpaths and walkways where you can walk the car. So figure it out, Because if you have the situation that you have to drive somewhere, you have to make sure that you either want to do this with your own car, or you have a car that you may rent it and you are allowed to do that. Or if you have the car of the owners, which wouldn't be a problem, but as we told you already, it's a problem with the insurances. So make sure that you figure out and ask the owners, is there walkways around the house? And I'm not talking about going across a field, right? Because that might be another challenge for you. I mean, not that you can't walk across a field, it's more the surfaces that are not very secure to go there, and maybe the farmers are not very happy about it as well. Yeah.
So I mean, obviously we're not talking about cities here, we are talking more countryside England with the narrow roads and no footpaths and stuff like that. So I think it's important that if you're considering a country sit, that you take that into consideration. Obviously if you're in a city, then it's you're going to be walking dogs down the normal pathways anyway, and usually to a park or something like that. So that's more typical. And I mean, we have had, if you remember, we had when we were in Wiltshire in England back in March of 22, we actually had a house sit where we had a car in England. They managed to add Suzanne onto the insurance so that we could take the dog out in the car. And so we were able to actually take the dog with us when we were on days out and stuff, which was really good. And I think it's good to have a conversation with the owners, like, if you're planning on wanting to see the local area and getting out there, and you don't want to leave the dog for too many hours, so there could be an option there to take the dog with you if it's well trained and well behaved. And so, have that conversation with the owners, if they're happy with that, if they want you to do that, if they'd rather the dog not be on their own, but they understand that you want to see the local area, then, this is another option as well.
As well. Well, the next topic for today is the review system.
Yes, the review system.
Well, it depends on which platform you go on. You have different review system. As mentioned before, we use quite a lot Trusted House Sitters, and Trusted House Sitters just changed the review system, similar to Airbnb, which I prefer. It's much better than it was before, because it means you give your review, the house owner gives his review, and only if both gave a review, then the review is visible. The second option is you give a review, the owner doesn't give you a review, or worse wiser, then the review will be visible in 2 weeks. So this is very important, and I'm really very serious about that. We figured out in the last couple of years doing house sittings, you see all these 5-star reviews. 5-star, 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 and everything was perfect, everything is super, and I bet with you 90% of these reviews were not 5 stars.
So let's just take a moment here to kind of really understand what 5-star really means. So, when you're looking at 5-star reviews, if you think about it and compare it to a hotel, a 5-star hotel is luxury. It's all the facilities, all the amenities, it's wonderful customer service. It's all of that you would expect for paying to go into a 5-star hotel. So when you compare that to a house sit, if a house sit is 5-star, then everything, it's clean, it has all the facilities, there's excellent communication, and all of
the description was perfect, so everybody knew exactly what's going on.
Etc. And so all of those things are in place. And if there is something that wasn't quite right, then it's not 5-star.
Definitely not. And I want to be serious about that, because the next house sitter coming into your property, or the next house sitter looking at the review and wants to apply, he thinks, wow, 5-star, 5-star, only 5 stars, everything super duper. And then he's very surprised when he or she arrives there and it's definitely not 5 stars, because a lot of things were not like they were described, or like you would think they should be, right? So the review system, from my point of view, is very important to see it as it is, to be realistic about things. Nothing has to be 5 stars. Nobody expects.
It doesn't have to be perfect, does it?
No, it doesn't have to be, but you have to know where you're going to. And so you can make a decision either if you want to apply, or maybe you have to take something personal with you, Like, for example, your own pots and pans, which we had in one of the house sits where we really couldn't use them, and we were happy that we
and
had
our own
some.
kettle.
And our kettle, yeah, you couldn't touch that kettle. Anyway, so if you know that, then you probably, if you're in the country anyway, you just put it in your car and you go with your own car, and that's fine, and you are happy with that, and it doesn't have to be 5 stars. But I think it's very important for both sides, either the house sitter and the house owner, to be honest about things and forget about the 5 stars. I mean, when I look back at all the house sits that we've done and I did before, there were maybe a handful from the 90 house sits that I did, maybe a handful that really were 5 star.
Yeah.
Maybe a handful. The rest was 4 stars, basically. A
couple of 2 stars.
Unfortunately, quite a lot of 2 stars, yes, or even less.
Yeah.
But yeah, so please be honest on both sides, because it's helping the sitters, it's helping the house owners, and it should be authentic. It should be honest. I think it's very important that we are honest. To be, we are in a very fragile situation, because you take over, you have all the responsibility, and then you're facing problems. And if you would have known that before, you probably wouldn't have done it. Right?
Yeah, I mean, this is going to be a bit of a for the owners and the sitters who are using trusted house sitters, particularly. It's going to be a bit of a culture change, I think, for them, because if they then don't get a 5-star review, you know if you're going to be upset about it, and I think this is where it's important to be realistic about the situation. And I think that what happens in these, and we were talking about this and saying that one of the challenges is that we all have different ideas about what is clean, for example, or what's tidy, or what are good facilities. And so again, if there are particular things that you need for the house sit, then ask the question. Like one of the things for us is we ask, do they have a blender, for example? And if they don't have one, then we're like, okay, well, we need to sort a blender out so that we have one for that sit. It's not that we're not going to do it because it doesn't have a blender. It's more like we need it because that's what we use. And if they don't have it, then we need to try and see if we can get one for ourselves. So
or if you have allergies, you have to know, about what kind of, particular surrounding you're in and stuff like that. So it's really important to be honest. While talking about equipment and what's in there and what's not in there, very often we figured out that the description of a house sit is not how it actually is. And it doesn't matter if it's better or not better. Very often we were surprised, like the next house sit Merlin is going to go in, it has a normal description, normal pictures, but when we went there we had the interview and we talked to the owners, it was like, oh
wow.
My God, it was 5 stars plus, I would even say. So well, nice maintained, a wonderful location, perfect animals. He's going to look after a dog, a cat and a horse. And so it's kind of, we were really surprised because advertisement and the pictures were definitely not
showcasing how lovely it is. And so it's not always a negative thing.
No.
Sometimes it can be on the flip side. Obviously, it's hiding something or something like that's not so good. And I would always say if there aren't pictures of the inside of the house, please ask the owners to send them to you,
or make a live video call
and ask them to
walk around. But this walk around, of course, you don't see, the dust, the dirt, the windows and stuff. You don't see that on the video. So often that we had to walk around and looked fine, and then we arrived there and said,
now we have to clean for 2 days.
Again, you can't even walk on the surface by not sticking with your feet on the ground and stuff like that. You don't see this on videos, right? So be prepared. I mean, we read a lot in other groups that we are in, that we are not the only ones that are having to face these situations. And obviously, the topic cleanness is coming up more and more and more. And very often, obviously, house sitters are supposed to be the maid, the clean maids.
Yeah, the cleaning people.
So when you leave, the house is clean. That's not our job, isn't it? So.
Or it's usually cleaner than when you
Yeah,
found it.
yeah, but it's not our job. We're not paid for that, are we?
We're not paid at all.
No, we're not paid at all. Right. Yeah. So the next topic is what we had this summer as well is cancellations. So it can happen that you agree to a house sit, and then the circumstances, of course, are changed, and the house owners have to cancel. Yeah, if they do this in advance for a couple of months, that's fine. So you can rearrange your travels, and you're okay with that. It happened to us. We were supposed to house sit in Bavaria for 1 month, and they cancelled in May. Was it? Or May? That was
for
okay.
September.
For September, that was okay. So we could, change our plans. But here in England, we had, for example, a problem with the system again. It was on trusted house sitters, so we had an interview with the owner. She agreed that we look after her horse and her dog and so on. And we had a really nice conversation, and it was exactly 1 day after, so we could have, 3 house sits after each other, which is difficult anyway. And then we talked, and she agreed, and then we were kind of okay, so she agreed, now it's fine. Then normally in the system she has to invite us to house sit, and we confirm. Because we started to travel that day, we didn't look at it anymore, and we were thinking, okay, we agreed to it anyway, and we had a WhatsApp group, so we were communicating on WhatsApp, so everything was fine. And then I think 2 weeks actually before we left our country to go to England, I thought, I have to message her, because I see it's not confirmed on I saw it's not confirmed on Trusted House Sitters, and I was kind of, why is it not confirmed? And then I saw it's cancelled on Trusted House Sitters. And why? What happened here? So I messaged her on WhatsApp and said, what's going on? Why did you cancel? And unfortunately, that woman was in a very difficult situation. We don't want to go in details here. So she forgot to confirm, and then she forgot to cancel. So she just deleted it, and the system didn't give us any notice.
No, there was no notification. I think that's the important part, isn't it?
This was problem because we didn't know that it was cancelled.
Yeah.
So make sure, our advice, once you agreed with the house sit, it doesn't matter which system you use. Of course, they're confirming, but it doesn't mean that the house is going to happen. So the first thing you're going to do is build up a direct communication out of the system with that people, and keep on track regularly before you actually start booking any public transport or whatever to go to that
trains,
place.
Ferries, whatever.
And keep on track with these people. Are they really going? Otherwise you have the costs, and nobody will give the cost back to you. So you will basically have to deal with that by yourself. And obviously this happens both sides, so it's not only house owners cancelling as well. I was reading a lot, house sitters are cancelling. We never cancelled. We always try to make it happen. And if one of us can't come, then the other one is taking over, but we stay with our word, because it's important that the house owners can have their holidays and can stick to their plans. So right, so this is a thing that you have to keep in mind when you're house sitting. It's not always how it looks like, isn't it?
Yeah, so if your circumstances change, make sure that you're communicating effectively in time with the house owners. And sometimes things happen very last minute, and and are unavoidable, but it's always best to be very transparent and upfront and honest about what's happened and the circumstances, etc. I mean, if it's something that's like somebody's got sick or died or
can happen,
it can happen.
Yeah.
So it's always good to be very open and honest about these things.
Well, when I read about applications and cancelling, I read quite a lot in a forum, and I could read in some countries that some house owners have really needs to they can't find house sitters. People are not applying anymore, and this has to do with the traveling costs that are increasing, and a lot of people are thinking, do I pay for an expensive flight and maybe then rent a car to get there? And then so the problem very often in some countries, especially where they are in need of house sitters, which are countries like USA, Canada, Australia, it's expensive to travel to, right? It doesn't matter where you come from. So if you're a house owner and you struggle to find people to get for a house sit, maybe you check through what else could you offer them. Maybe you could offer them to use your car. Maybe you could offer them anything little extra that would help them to decide to come to your place and take the effort and take the invest to buy an expensive flight to come to your country to do that.
I think with the United States, there's also the extra issue in relation to the health insurance.
Yeah.
So obviously healthcare is very expensive in the United States, and if you're buying travel insurance to go on to sit on those sort of things, that's an additional cost for house sitters as well.
Yeah. So make sure that you can offer them something extra, so you attract them and you don't sit there and can't go because you don't have any applicant. Yeah. Well, what else do we have? Well, we were kind of asking ourselves, what can we do to actually get a house sit where we have everything we need in terms of you don't have to live out of your suitcase. You don't have to shuffle all your stuff around somewhere because there's no space for you to put your kitchen and your food and whatever, and your office equipment, whatever you have with you. And we decided that we were gonna do something new here. We were gonna have a list for the house owners where we explain what we need when we move in. Maybe you know this from the platform from Trusted House Sitters. There are the welcome guides, which I really like, because in the welcome guides they're talking about the animals, about where's the vet, whom to contact, what's important about all the things around the house, where if there's a plumber and blah blah blah.
Where'd you turn the water off
and all that, which is really helpful for us sitters. But here's tip number 1 for the house owners: please print this out. Don't leave it digital, because in the moment you have maybe an electricity cut down, you can't get on that. So please print it out for the house sitters and make sure that this is the newest version and this is all up to date. Yeah. So what we will do now, we will do the same, not a welcome guide. It's more like, thank you for welcoming us. This is what we need guide. We have to name it, don't we?
Yeah, it's almost like a pre-sit checklist.
Oh yeah, it's a good idea. A preset checklist. I have to write it down. So on the preset checklist, you will find topics like
make room in the kitchen for food, make room in the fridge, make room in the freezer.
Yeah, make room and in the bedrooms as well.
In the bedrooms, so make room drawers in the wardrobes. These are issues that we have and we find a lot, and even in the bathrooms, like clear your shampoos and your body washes and stuff out so that we can put ours in there when we're actually using your shower.
Yes. Yeah. And if you have working space for the sitters, because a lot of sitters are like we are working online, please make sure that we have all the equipment that we need, the Wi-Fi code, and that we know where, all the provider is, the information for the provider. So if there's a cutout, that we know where we have to call, and make sure that we have space to work, or people have space to work, because a lot of house sitters are like us, are digital nomads, are working online. Here's the other one. Come on up. Oh yes.
I think I think one of the challenges we've had actually is finding comfortable office space, isn't it?
Yeah.
We've had
no chairs to sit on,
the chairs
no tables.
Chairs are very uncomfortable to sit on, because obviously we understand not everyone has a home office, so it's not always possible to have that. But
that was a luxury 5-star. I would say.
Exactly.
This would be a 5-star for people like us working online and being at home with the animals most of the time, and not like being tourists traveling around and leaving the animals alone. So for us, like when we go back to Australia, we have an office, have an office space where we can work, and this is really great for us, especially for the digital nomads, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that's this for today.
Yeah.
Anything else?
I think we're done.
We're done. So we wish you a lovely summer wherever you are.
We're going to go and play with these dogs in the garden.
Oh yeah, of course we will. We have one dog. He's really running very
But
fast.
the one you saw on Suzanne's lap is called Bullet,
Yeah.
and he's called Bullet for a reason because he runs really, really fast.
And he's a good catcher and bring the ball back. He loves
Yeah.
it. Yeah. Okay, my friends, reach out to us and don't forget to sum up. Right?
Yes, please. Thumbs up, share, subscribe.
And help other people to understand what house sitting really is, or what it means to have a house sitter in your house. Doesn't matter which situation you're in.
Yeah.
And feel free to ask any
Yeah,
questions.
if you've got family who are considering it or have not thought about it before, because let's face it, the cost of catteries and kennels are getting more and more expensive, and this is a much kind of more cost-effective system. So it's a win-win for everyone. So yeah, please, if you know someone who's in that situation, please share.
Yeah, and have a great time. Until the next video. Bye.
Bye.